Right, so this is the animation that I created of a person approaching a door. It's just about 1 second long, a little over 1 second long. And here are the frames. So I'm going to use this to explain the concept of pose to pose animation. I'm going to close this project. I already saved it, so I don't need to save it again. And I'm going to begin a new Wick project. I'm just going to exit out of the website because occasionally what happens is the things remain on the clipboard and stuff, and it'll reload an old project if you don't close out of the website. So now I'm going to go back to the Wick Editor. Just type in wickeditor.com, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the latest updates. So this is the most recent update. I'm going to try it. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the editor settings, and I need to name my project. So I'm going to be calling it Figure Approaches Door. And we'll make it 1080 by 1920 by 1080. So it'll be the larger format, the HD format, and I'll hit apply. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a few layers. So let me just X out of all the stuff. All right, now I'm going to create the layer with the background color in it. And I'm also going to create the layer with the door in it. Okay, so we're going to hide layer 1 and layer 2, and we're going to worry about layer 3 first. Layer 3 is just going to have the background color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a fill color of like a dark blue, not too dark, and I'm going to get a rectangle, and I'm going to make it exactly the size of, make sure you're clicked in layer 3. I'm going to make it exactly the size of the stage. Do not make it bigger than the stage, because if you do, some of your pictures will go off the edge and you won't realize it till you export it. So that's layer 3. That's going to be my background layer. And I'm going to now lock this layer so I don't accidentally do anything to it. And I'm going to unhide layer 2 and click on layer 2. And now I'm going to make my door. So I'm going to make the doorway yellow. And I need to make the fill color, let me make the stroke width a little longer. Okay, the stroke width is going to be a little wider. And now I'll have a yellow stroke. So I'm just going to make a straight line going up. Okay, and then another straight line going up here. And then another straight line going down here. Now, in the Wick Editor, you need to be able to close off a shape even if it's off the edge of the stage. So I'll do another line here, and I'll just make sure they're connected. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to fill this. So I'm going to go to the paint bucket tool and just click there, and it should fill it. Okay, there we go. So just so it doesn't bother my eye, I'll just erase this part down here. All right. So now I've got my door, and I want to make a figure coming through that door. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with the figure over here, and I'm going to move them to over here. So at this point, let's see. I think I'm going to make a second door over here. So I'm still in layer 2, and I'm going to make a second door over here, but this door is going to be a different color. So I'll make it a red door with white fill. Okay, so let's see, X this out. And with my straight lines, I'm going to And I got to close the shape off, and now I'm going to use the paint bucket and fill inside here. Might take a minute. Okay, and then I'll just erase the part on the bottom. All right, so now I want to have a figure going from one door to another. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll draw the figure where they start out and then where they end up. Okay, so at this point I'm going to lock this layer. So now these layers are locked. Layer 3 is locked and layer 2 is locked. That means that I can't do anything on those layers. And I'm going to unhide the top layer and I'm going to click on the top layer. Okay. And at this point, I'm going to change the fill color to black and the line color to black. Okay. And I'm going to be using the paintbrush tool. Now I want the figure to come through here and go to there, but I don't want, I want him to be in back of here like he's coming through the door, but I'll draw him here first and then I can erase him later. Okay, so I'm going to create the illusion that he's behind the door, but really he's in the top layer. So I go to layer 1, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take layer 2 and I'm going to pull it all the way out to 16. Okay, and I'll take layer 3 and I'll pull it out to 16. This is one scene, so the background's not going to change. So if I know that, I'm just going to pull it out a ways. So now I'm going to go to layer 1 and I've got my black and I've got my brush tool and I'm going to click on layer 1 and I'm going to draw my little person. So I may want to zoom in here just so that I can focus on what I'm doing. And he's starting out right here. Okay, so there he is. He's a little kind of a gesture drawing. Not quite a stick figure. A gesture drawing has shoulders and hips. They just don't have a lot of detail. They're almost like a silhouette, like a shadow. So there he is. And he's walking, so I'll make him walking. Okay, and I can erase parts of him later so he looks like he's walking through the door. Right now, I'm just focusing on getting his outline drawn. I'm going to keep him pretty simple. All right, so, and I'm just drawing with my mouse, nothing fancy. Now, the first thing that I want to do is he's actually made up of a lot of different lines. So if I go like this, you're going to see a whole bunch of different shapes that make him up. And when I move one of them, I might accidentally end up moving one arm or the head or the leg and not the whole person. So I'm going to go to here, Canvas Actions, and I'm going to hit Unite. And now he's just one figure. Okay. Now I know that eventually I want him to get to this door. Okay. So I'm going to go all the way to frame 15, not 16, 15. And I'm going to draw, and I'll put on the onion skinning so I can see where I came from. And I'm going to draw where he's going to end up. So this is called pose to pose animation. So I'm going to just try and make sure he's roughly about the same size. And I'm going to draw a figure that is going through a door. So let's see. And I don't want to draw him in the same position because as you walk, you end up changing positions. So I'll have his shoulders back, one shoulder back, and the other arm kind of down a little. I'm deliberately making sure he doesn't look identical. Let's see, we got that. Let's have this leg going back. I didn't have that before. And this leg going forward. So it really looks different. You don't want to look like he got dragged along the floor. You want to look like he's moving. So let's give him his little flared leg pants so he looks like the same person. And there you go. Just play around with him a little more. Give him a more defined shoulder. Okay. And I may want to do a little erasing Not sure I love that elbow there. Okay, so I'm going to, tweak him just a tiny bit more, get him to look the way I want, and there we go. Okay, so now I know this is where he's ending up, and that's where he came from. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this frame that's right in back of him, and I'm going to pull it back one frame. Okay? And this is called pose to pose animation, because what you do is you figure out where the person was at the beginning of the scene, where they end up at the end of the scene, and then you put in all the in-between stuff. So I know that he ends up here and starts here. So now what would be the next frame before this? So well, first off, let me go back to this frame and do what I did before. I'm going to just take the cursor, drag it over everything, and then I'm going to unite the shape. Okay, otherwise it could be a problem if I need to move him later. So now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to draw another guy. So the next step, he's running like that. So what did his leg do before it was up like that? It was probably down on the floor like this, right? And this leg had stepped forward. So what was it doing before it stepped forward? It was probably kind of swinging like it was about to take a step. And his body was probably about here. And okay. And then we got to give him his little flared legs. Okay, so now I go to this scene previous, and I'm gonna, well, wait, I gotta unite the shapes. You get the idea. And now I'm gonna go to this scene previous, and I'm gonna just pull it back one frame. Okay, now you see where I began, where I ended, and what happened right before this. So you just keep lather, rinse, repeat. You gotta sort of logically figure out where each figure would go. And I gotta make a person over here, and then a person over here, and then a person over here. So let's say I decide that in the middle he does something. So I can go back another frame, and I'm going to lose what I had here. I can go back another frame, but I'm not going to be able to see where he ends up. Go back another frame. Somewhere in the middle here, I want him to do something. So I know what this frame looks like, but I don't remember exactly. So I'm going to take him, and I'm going to just use my cursor. And I never united this one, so let me unite it. Okay, so now I'm going to use my cursor, and I'm going to go C for copy, and I'm actually going to paste him here. Not because he's going to stay here, but because I want to remember what he's going to look like. So I'll get rid of this later. I'm going to go here, and I need to put something right in the middle. Okay, halfway between this and this. I'm going to erase this one later. I'm deleting him because he doesn't belong there. I'm just putting them there temporarily so I can figure out what the guy ends up doing in the middle. So now I am in the middle, and I'm going to make sure that I paint a person in the middle. Somebody in the middle here. All right, and now I'm going to actually go to this one and I'm going to delete it because I don't need it anymore. I just had it there so I could see, okay, in the beginning this happens, in the middle this happens, at the end that happens. So I'm going to go here and I want to put the next one in after this guy. So I'll put him right here. He kind of looks up. All right, so now I have this, and then it jumps to that. So I need to get in between this and that. So let's see. Let me go to the next one here. And now we're here, and we need to get to here. So we need something in between this and that. So you see how you begin with the end in mind. Now this foot is passing, so now it's ready to put itself down. And this foot is ready to pick itself up. And again, I'm not really concerning myself with a lot of detail here. So let's see. So now I need something in between this and that. So let's have the head here. That's in between. Let's have the body here. That's in between. And now let's see what we got here. So we got here. I know this one looks kind of Frankenstein-y. I don't like the head, so I'm going to erase that. That works for me. And we're going to just keep on. Make another one here. We know we're going to make another one here until we're pretty certain that we've solidly gotten the person where we want them to go. I'll just skip through that part since it's a little repetitive, showing the process of adding those frames in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull this one back a little, and I'm going to take this one and I'm going to unite it. Okay, and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it here. I'll paste it into that blank frame. I'm sorry, paste. Well, it didn't work. Okay, let me try that again. Let me grab him, copy him, go back to here and paste him, and take this guy and throw him in the garbage can. I take this guy, unite him. He's already united. Copy him. I'll paste him. Sorry. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Copy him. Paste him. Okay. And then I'm just going to take him and in the next frame and move him just a tiny bit forward. And then go to this next one. That's good. And then I'm going to go to the next one. And I think I'm going to pull him backwards a little, because a lot of these seem jammed. Control Z, it undoes it. And I never united this one, so let me do that. That's something I keep forgetting to do. Now you can see why it's important to unite them, but anyway, moving him backwards just a tiny bit so that there's a feeling of continuity. And he also looks a little big. Looks bigger than the other guy, so I can change the size a little. And maybe bring him down so he's on the same level. Okay, now go to the next one. I never united this guy either. Unite. Okay, and I'll bring this one back. Okay, so now you bring him back a little more. Okay, so now to this one. This one needs to be united. And then I need to bring him back a little more because they look like they're all jammed up at the end. Let me bring him back. Okay, now this one. Okay. Now this one, Control Z. Gotta unite them. Okay, and this one I need to bring forward a little bit. Okay. And then this one needs to be brought forward even more. Okay. This one needs to be brought forward even more. And this one should be brought forward to the point where I'm not seeing most of them. So now, hopefully, they won't look like they're all jammed up at the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this second one, okay, this first one, okay, and I'm going to copy it, okay, and I'm going to put him in the second frame, okay, and then I'm going to go to the first one, and I'm actually going to pull him back. So he's off the edge of the screen at the very beginning, okay? So now it looks like this. Okay, so now let me do it again. Let me play it. Okay, now I want to make him look like he's coming through this door. So the very first frame, he's not going to be visible at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy him. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to paste him in the second frame. And I'm going to go back to the first frame and just delete him. I'll just put him in the garbage. Okay, so the first frame, he's not visible at all. The second frame, he's visible, but only his arms are visible. So I'm going to take the eraser and I'm going to make it real big. And now it looks like he's coming through the door. So here he isn't visible. Then in the second frame, you just see the beginnings of his arms. In the third frame, you see a little more of his body. Let me erase this. All right, so all right, in the third frame, you see a little more of his body. In the fourth frame, now you see him coming through the door. And the same thing happens at the end. He gets to here, he's okay, but here I got to erase some of this. If you mess up, you just hit Control-Z. All right, so now it looks like he's going through the door, and most of his body in the last frame is not visible at all. Just his elbow. And the bottom of his foot. Now, in this next frame, he's not visible at all. He's just, it's empty. There's nobody there. Okay, so now let's see what it looks like now. I'm going to turn off the onion skinning and I'm going to play it. And now what's bothering me is in each scene, the shape of the head seems to change. So I'm going to pay very close attention to the shape of the head. In this one, I want to make the head right. So I'm going to take the ellipse tool and I'm going to hold the Alt key and I want to pull out an ellipse. Okay, now I got this ellipse. I'm going to move it over on top of the head. Okay. And now I'm going to take that ellipse and I'm going to copy it. Okay. And now I'm going to just unite. Now, I already copied this, so now I'm going to go here and I'm going to paste it. Okay. Take it and put it on top of his head. Just move it. See what it looks like. Rotate it a little, not too much. All right, that's better, actually. So now I can take the eraser and I'm going to erase here. Okay, so now I like that. I'm going to copy it and then I'm going to select everything and unite. So I'm going to just very quickly go through this part because it's repetitive, but I'm going to try and get the heads to be the same and consistent on each figure. So I'm just going to skip through this part, but that's what I had to do frame by frame. If I had to do this project over, I probably would have made the head first and consistently used that same head throughout every frame. It took me an extra probably 10 minutes to do this because I had to redo the heads in each frame. So if I had to do it over, I probably would have created the heads to begin with, made them consistent on each frame, and then drawn the bodies and united them. But live and learn. Now let's see if it looks better with a head more consistent. Okay, there seems to be some weird flash over here. Let me just look. I don't know what that is. Get rid of it. All right. Not perfect, but the nice thing about it is that it can loop over and over again and it'll be able to it'll still make sense. So I'm going to just pull this out to 24 frames here and this one out to 24 frames here. Okay, and now I can take these and I can start here, hold the shift key and click on the last one. That selects all of them, copy, and I can go here and hit paste, and they'll continue. So I'll just pull this out to there, this out to there, and now I've got a couple of seconds worth of animation. All right, now let me just play it. Okay, and that's how I did that. That's pose to pose animation, where you begin with the end in mind and then you fill in between. It'll give you much smoother action than doing just frame by frame. So now I'm going to save it. That'll save my project. And I'm also going to export it as an MP4. Export video. And it's called Figure Approaches Door. It's always a good idea to name your projects. So let me just play it. See how the finished project looks. Not bad. It's like maybe 2 seconds of animation. And that's the whole, that's all she wrote. Thank you very much. This is Rachel Winneberg, the Helpful Art Teacher.